Namaste. Welcome to Indian Knowledge Systems Primer Course for Children. In this session, we will look at Padartha Vijnana. What is Padartha Vijnana? Let's try to understand. The word Padartha means categories of existence or fundamental principles. The word Vijnana means science or knowledge. So, Padartha Vijnana can be understood as science of fundamental principles. Padartha Vijnana, as a subject of science, deals with the philosophical foundation that underlies all the principles and practices. Padartha Vijnana is deeply connected with the ancient Indian philosophies like Sankhya, Nyaya, and Vaisheshika. We have already seen that this creation or the prapancha, the universe, is made of 5 fundamental elements called as Panchamahabhutas. These are also called as Karana Dravyas. The 5 elements or the bhutas are Akasha, which is ether, Vayu, air, Agni, fire, Jala, water, and Prithvi, earth. These 5 fundamental elements form the building blocks of whole of this creation. One can thus understand that the whole of this creation is an interplay of this 5 Panchamahabhutas. Thus, the fundamental elements can never be further destroyed or divided further as well. One can see that the Panchamahabhuta concept addresses the physical aspect of creation. Thus, for one to understand the nature of this reality, one has to also deeply understand the interplay of these 5 elements. Thus, the entire creation, which is made of Panchamahabhutas, can be further understood by having deeper insights derived from the Padartha Vijnana. Dhanvantri Bhagavan, who is also considered the god of Ayurveda, brought the knowledge of Ayurveda to humanity. He also gave us Padartha Vijnana. Let us now delve deeper into Padartha Vijnana. Padartha can now be understood as a fundamental principle. So, it can also be equated to a substance which cannot be further destroyed or divided further. Padartha or a substance is usually addressed using a word. It forms a qualification to that substance. So, all these substances should have a certain lakshana to be qualified as Padartha. Let's now try to understand what are all the lakshanas of a Padartha. Lakshana can be understood as attributes that makes the substance qualify as a Padartha. The first concept is that of astitva, which is existence. The substance should be real and existent in nature. Second is abhedatva, which is named. There has to be a knowable and cognizable nature of an object. That's when it can qualify as a Padartha. Third is nyayatva or cognizable, which means the potential of an object to be known or grasped by a conscious subject. This should also happen. So, only when these 3 aspects are checked can a substance be called as a Padartha. Let's now try to understand these aspects using relevant examples. Take the example of a smartphone. Can we consider smartphone as a Padartha? Let's assume, how do we run it by this check to say whether the smartphone qualifies as a Padartha or not? What was Astitva? Astitva is it should have an existence. The smartphone definitely has an existence. We can catch it, grab it, see it. So, the physical and the material reality is presented for the smartphone. Second is abhedatva. Abhedatva means named. There has to be a proper name, and through that name, we should be able to make meaning out of it. So, hence, of course, the smartphone has a name, and when you hear the name smartphone, you do map it with a meaning. Third is nyayatva, which is cognizable. The smartphone has the capacity to be known and grasped by a conscious object. Thus, the smartphone can definitely be called as a Padartha. Let us also see a lot more of the key concepts that is involved in the science of fundamental principles, which is Padartha Vijnana. Each of the philosophical systems, Nyaya, Vaisheshika and Sankhya, have different set of padarthas. It is very important to remember this. In this session, let's refer to the Padartha Vijnana or the Padartha aspects mentioned in the Vaisheshika Shastra. According to the Vaisheshika system, the following are the key concepts with respect to Padartha Vijnana. Number 1 is dravya, second is guna, third is karma, fourth is samanya, fifth is vishesha, sixth is samavaya, and seventh is abhava. This was added at a much later date. Let us now try to understand each of these key concepts and what are all their subcategories as well. This will help provide for a framework which will make us understand the nature of this reality. Let us now delve deeper into each of these concepts. Dravya refers to anything that can exist and it can be perceived by the senses. That's what qualifies as a dravya. Whereas guna refers to the inherent and the acquired qualities of a substance or an entity. Karma refers to the activities that can be done by the dravya or the substance, especially movements like upward, downward, sideways, etc. are all considered as karma. Please remember, all of this categorization is based on the Vaisheshika system. Fourth is samanya. Samanya refers to the common qualities that exist among all the group of objects and substances. We will look at each of these concepts with an example a little later. Now let's have a very preliminary introduction to all these concepts and what do they mean by those names. Next is Vishesha. Vishesha refers to the unique qualities or characteristic features of that particular substance or the dravya. It will be a distinguishing factor. For example, when you say fire as a padartha or as a dravya, then you can clearly understand that it will produce heat. It is something very hot. That's what we will cognize as. Next is samavaya, which refers to the inherent relationship between the substances or the entities, which allows us to exist together. The last is abhava, which means absence or non-existence of something that was previously present or expected to be present. Let's take the example of fire. So, we expect fire to be hot. There has to be a flame. There has to be light. But let's say it's raining. Then we can see even the fire, it extinguishes. That means the fire is now in the abhava aspect. Moving on, to consider and analyze all of these key concepts that we just saw using the example of water. So, water is definitely a dravya because it is a matter and it has independent existence. That's what makes it a dravya. Second is, it has various qualities which is called as gunas. What are all the qualities of or the guna of water? It is very transparent, it is cooling in nature, it has fluidity, it has taste. Here we are talking about water not just as a substance but also the tattva of water. That's why we say taste. Third is, water also has various actions, which is karma, such as it flows, it freezes, it evaporates, it boils. All of these are called as activities or actions done by water. Why so? We defined karma as the movement principle. So, all of these is the movement of water. Hence, the karma aspect of water includes these items. Next comes samanya. If you see water, it includes various types of water bodies which share very common characteristics such as being in the liquid flow and it is essential for life. It doesn't matter whether the water is in a pond or if it is rainy season or if it is ocean water. We clearly see that all of this type is in liquid form and it becomes very essential for existence as well. Now, a specific type of water could be mineral water, meaning it might be enriched in certain type of nutrients. Hence, it could have a very specific quality and characteristics. In those cases, it is called as Vishesha. It expresses the aspect of Vishesha. For example, have you seen when you sort of infuse tulsi or something into water, it gains a certain taste. It doesn't mean that it has gone different from being water. It's just that it's a Vishesha quality that it has gained because of addition of tulsi. Next is the relationship between water and its container is an example of samavaya. The container that holds the water cannot be separated from it. That's the it's a certain interdependence that we see. That's the samavaya principle. As an example of abhava, like we saw how fire was extinguished during rainy season, as an example of abhava, we will know that in desert conditions, water may be absent. That doesn't mean that it's not universal. It's just absent because of that particular condition. That's called abhava. Now, we have seen what are all the key concepts in the Padartha Vijnana as per Vaisheshika system. Let's delve deeper into each of these key concepts and try to understand them a little more. We will also deal with the subcategories that are present for these key aspects. Number one we saw is that of dravya. Dravya refers to anything that exists and can be perceived by the sense of mind. It's almost similar to what we call as a padartha. In Ayurveda, dravya refers to substances that make up the universe, including both living and the non-living beings, which are called as chetana and achetana. There are 9 primary dravyas as mentioned in Ayurveda. The Panchamahabhutas are 5, and next comes time, dik, manas and atma. Let's now try to very quickly read through all the 9 primary dravyas. Starts with Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Jala, Prithvi, Kala, Manas, Atma and Dik. These are the 9 primary dravyas as mentioned in Ayurveda. Each of these, if you see, they have unique characteristics and actions. So, after we have seen dravya, the second key concept that we saw is that of guna. Guna refers to the qualities or attributes of a padartha, of a dravya. These qualities may be inherent or acquired. They can even be positive or negative qualities. For example, the guna of water we just saw, that it will be transparent, it will be fluid, it will be wet. All of these are gunas of water. Every substance is closely tied to its quality. It's very important to remember that. For example, when you think of Agni, you can also know that the quality of Agni is that of hot. It will increase the temperature and the like. Similarly, that of wind, we will know that there will be a force and movement associated with it. So, every substance is closely tied to its guna. The quality or the characteristic can be unique to it or similar to other substance. It's not necessary that this guna has to be very unique. There are certain gunas that might be unique for few substances, but that said, there are a lot of gunas that can even be spread across one to many substances. Each substance can be looked at having 17 gunas as per Vaisheshika. Vaisheshika lists 17 types of gunas for each of the dravya or the padartha. Let's very quickly read through them and we will try to understand how guna is subcategorized in Ayurveda. Some gunas that we would like to know are shabda. Some dravyas will have the shabda aspect. Shabda is that of sound. Sparsha is touch. Rupa, they will have specific forms. Rasa, they will have specific taste. Gandha, which is smell. Samkhya, they will be numbered. Parimana, dimension and many of such. They can also have an intellect, which is buddhi. They may retain, which is dhriti. They may even have a disposition, which is vritti. They might cause pleasure or pain, which is sukha and dukkha. According to Ayurveda, guna, the concept of guna in Padartha Vijnana is subcategorized into the following aspects. Number 1 is guru. Guru means substances that which have the aspect of heavy. They have a heavy quality. Lagu. Lagu is that of light. So if you see, these are almost like opposites, Guru, Lagu. Similarly, Manda. Manda means those substances or things that have the aspect of slow or dullness. For example, too much kapha food will cause Manda Agni. Here, Agni, if you take as a dravya, Manda becomes the guna of that particular dravya at that particular instance. Next is Tikshna, which refers to the sharp penetrating nature. Next is Shita. Shita is something that's very cool. Ushna. Ushna are things that are hot. Ruksha. Ruksha are things that are dry and rough. The next quality or the guna is Lakshna, that which is smooth and soft. Khara, things that are rough and coarse. Sandra, which refers to quality of being dense, compact and solid. Mridhu, Mridhu is soft, things that are soft, gentle, mild, smooth, all of these are called as Mridhu. Katina, which refers to quality of being hard, solid and tough. These are called as Katina. Sthira, Sthira is that which is very stable, immobile, firm and durable. All of these are called as Sthira. The next set of gunas are Sara, which means fluidity or softness, lightness of the substance. All of these qualify as Sara. Sukshma, which means very subtle. It is of a very fine quality. Stula has gross properties, which is macroscopic in quality. Vishada, which means oily or unctuous. Pichila, which means unctuous or oily. Both are almost same. We will see what is the difference later. Yukti, which is appropriate or skillful application of the knowledge. Last is Abhyasa, is practice or repetition of a particular action or activity with the aim of mastering it. Is called as Abhyasa. Let's try to understand some of these gunas using the example of honey. If you see honey, honey is very heavy, hence it has the quality of guru. It settles at the bottom of the container. Have you seen it? Next is snigdha, which is oily. Honey definitely is very sticky and has a very smooth texture. It's mridhu, it's soft and can be easily spread or poured. But if you see, let's say a frozen butter, it's very hard, it's katina. This is mridhu. Pichila, which is slimy. It leaves a small coating on the surface because it's slimy. It's called pichila. It's ushna because it generates warmth in the body when consumed. It is of madhura taste. The vipaka effect is that of madhura. The post digestive effect is sweet. Honey leaves a sweet taste in the mouth after digestion. We have already seen what are all the key concepts in Padartha Vijnana, and we have seen two of these key concepts in detail, which is dravya and guna. We also saw what are all the subcategories of dravya and guna as per Ayurveda. Now, let's delve deeper into the karma aspect. According to Vaisheshika, karma is of 5 types. Ukshepana, which means upward movement. The action is that of moving upward. Avakshepana, which means moving downward. Akunchana, which means contraction or fluxion in movement, which causes the object to come closer. Prasharana, which means expansion or extension movement, which causes the object to go further. Gamana, which means movement that does not fit into any of these categories, are called as gamana. Now let's try to understand the other key concept, which is abhava. Abhava means absence. So there are 4 types of abhava. Pragabhava, which means non-existence before production. Before the production of the k sound, it doesn't exist at all. Only when you finish it, it starts coming into picture. The akshara can only then be made meaning out in the conscious mind. Second is pradvamsha bhava, which means non-existence after destruction. So once you have pronounced an akshara and it is over, it does not have any meaning when the shabda gets ended. Third is atyanta bhava, which means absolute non-existence. For example, water is present in earth but not vice versa. That's an example of atyanta bhava. Last is anyonya bhava, which is mutual non-existence of identity. Now, let's try to understand the classification of Padartha from a very different perspective. So far, we have tried to understand what is Padartha Vijnana, why is it important to understand the nature of reality, what are all the key concepts in Padartha Vijnana. We try to understand these key concepts and their subcategories across the Vaisheshika framework and how it is customized for the Ayurveda. Now that we have understood what is a Padartha, let's try to classify them. Till now, we have been trying to understand the Padartha Vijnana subject, what it deals with, what are all the key concepts in that subject, at the same time, what are all the subcategories of those key concepts. We have also understood the framework of how to identify a substance as a Padartha. The Padartha Lakshana spoke about it. Using that, we will try to classify this creation into two. One is Chetana, another is Achetana, which can be roughly translated into living and non-living things or inanimate objects. So Chetana, or they have variety of senses and they respond to these sensory inputs using their indriyas. Indriyas are nothing but sense organs. But Achetana items cannot do that. So there are two categories of Chetana. One is Jangama and another is Tavara. Jangama are moving animals while Tavara are stationary plants. So the Jangama animals can further be classified based on the mode of birth as Jarayuja, Andaja, Udbija, Svedaja. Let's try to understand what each of these categories mean. Jarayuja are mammals such as cows, goats, etc. Andaja are living beings that come out of an egg such as snakes, birds, etc. Udbija includes animals that are born from earth such as amphibians. A frog is an example of an amphibian. Svedaja are animals that are born out of sweat and dirt. All the insects, microbes fall under this category. Classification of plants, which is Tavara, are further divided into four categories: Vanaspati, Vriksha, Vanaspatya, Aushadhis and Virudh. Vriksha or Vanaspatya, they mean the same. So Vanaspati are fruits that are born without flowers, such as fig, jackfruit. They don't have flowers. They come as a fruit directly. Whereas Vriksha or Vanaspatya means they bear the flower first and then fruits come. For example, Gova, mango, neem, all of these are Vanaspatya. Third is Aushadhi. Aushadhi means they complete their life cycle from germination to production of seed in one season, such as pea, green grass, etc. The fourth classification is that of Virudh, which means creepers. Virudh is further classified into Lata and Valli. Lata are creepers that grow horizontally on the ground, such as that of watermelon, pumpkin, etc. Whereas Valli are climbers that grow vertically. Cucumber, money plant are examples of Valli. Let us now try to quickly summarize the classification that we try to understand of the Padarthas. Based on the variety of senses and the response that they provide for these senses using their indriyas, all the Padarthas and the dravyas were broadly classified into Chetana and Achetana. Chetana are living things that sense and respond, whereas Achetana do not sense nor do they respond. The Chetana or the living things can further be divided into Jangama and Stavara. Jangama are all of those living beings which are moving animals, while Stavara are stationary plants. Stavara further got classified into Vanaspati, Vanaspatya, Aushadhis and Virudh. Virudh also further classified into Lata and Valli. Jangama, as we already saw, based on the mode of birth, we were classifying them as Jarayuja, Andaja, Udbija and Svedaja. So now, in this particular session, we try to understand the nature of reality using the science of fundamental principles called as Padartha Vijnana. We have seen that Padartha Vijnana provides for broad framework to analyze the reality, perceive and understand them better. By doing so, we are also able to understand how beautiful that we are connected with this nature. Thank you.